from the Library of Congress and the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture.
Okay, okay, all right, we'll leave it alone.
We're live.
All right, so this is Emilye Crosby on December 4th, 2015, and I'm here with Mr. James Miller, Ms. Carolyn Miller at Mississippi Cultural Crossroads in Port Gibson, Mississippi. We're here with the Civil Rights History Project, which is co-sponsored by the Library of Congress and the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. And with us are John Bishop and Guha Shankar. And good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
And
Morning, good doctor.
could you tell us about when and where you were born and growing up? One of you can start, and then.
Well, I was born actually at Alcorn State University now, but I was born in the infirmary at Alcorn A&M College then, back in 1953, because back during the 50s and before, there were only midwives, and my mother was having a difficult pregnancy, and my grandmother, who was an educator in the community, she had a little pool, and she was able to get my mom down to the infirmary. So I was born there. I was the only one in my family actually born in the hospital, so to speak, or with a professional medical person. So.
Did your brothers and sisters have
midwives?
Yeah.
They were all born by midwives. Yeah, I was the first, so I gave her a little trouble.
That was the only time.
Yeah, that was the only time. Yes.
Yeah. In terms of midwives, Miss Dismute was a premier midwife in this community.
What was her name?
Miss Dismute.
Jessie.
Jessie, yeah.
Jessie
Dismute.
Dismute. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, she's the one. She brought me here.
Is that her claim to fame?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, her and my grandma was close, Miss Dismute, and so
Yeah.
anyway, but she was she was a beautiful midwife. So they say. I didn't know her personally.
Right. I'm saying, wow. Yeah, but she, Miss Dismute, probably everybody in the 50s, she was the one.
Yeah.
So she delivered a lot of
Oh yeah,
a lot of babies.
Yeah, a lot of babies.
Did she just deliver babies for black families, or did any white families go to her?
I'm not sure about that,
Yeah.
but I bet I'm sure she probably did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor black family. Poor white family.
Yeah.
So I probably lived some of them. Yeah, but I was born here in '49, and I was my dad was a sharecropper, and I don't growing up. We was talking about that earlier. Okay, I was born out that way, and it was growing up in the 50s in Port Gibson, Mississippi. I was just running around carefree. You know, I felt like, happy as a little kid growing up here, right? And then all of a sudden things changed. I don't know, it's like the civil rights movement showed up, and so you had something to focus on, right? That was different, and because the way society was structured, white folks had everything, right? Black folks didn't have nothing running around in a lot of cases, living a servitude kind of existence, trying to support their families, and so it was crazy. It was a crazy existence, and there was some crazy relationships between black folks and white folks, that I don't think get talked about a lot, right? Okay, yeah, that was a lot of obvious racism going on too, right? But poor blacks and poor whites, in a lot of cases, built coalitions in the community, right? That supported each other and supported each other's family. And I think that was kind of like behind the scenes kind of thing, one-on-one kind of relationships, not no group dynamics, but still separate and apart.
Can you give an example of how that might have worked, either with people or just an example of like what it would have been like, how that would work?
Well, like my old man, right? Okay, Mr. Dan, the sheriff in the community, right? Okay, My father was a World War II veteran, and so he saw a lot of stuff when he went over on the European theater. And when he came back home, man, he talked a little bit about it. So it kind of opened up our eyes to stuff, right? And so for some reason, the Pop was always smooth. You know, he was always had folks laughing and going on and stuff. So him and his dad had a pretty cordial relationship. And he would help Pop from time to time, okay, and give him little monies and stuff, right, besides paying him. I remember one instance in particular when I was out at Alcorn, and they were wondering about how I was going to get to school, right? But I got a little fellowship, but I still needed some money. And Mr. Dan gave Pop the money. And then Pop came to me and said, hey, look, boy, you know, Mr. Dan gave me this, right? And then when that happened, right, the movement came. So you got some dynamics going on, right, between Pop and me and Dan.
I was just thinking.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, those kind of things, right? And so, but Pop never scolded me. He never said, boy, don't be in the movement. He never said that, you know? And so, I know Mr. Dan called Pop in numerous times about me running around here throwing bricks and stuff, you know, marching and doing all that kind of stuff in the movement, right? And because those kind of relationships some black men had with other white men of authority in the community, right? It was a paternal kind of relationship,
Yeah.
but there was a little bit of respect there too. You know what I'm saying?
So you were just talking about how when you were getting ready to go to Alcorn, Dan McKay, who was the sheriff, gave your dad some money to help you go to Alcorn
Yeah.
because they had a working relationship and a sort of, and at the same time you're in the movement and McKay's trying to control you in the movement.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what it says too, you know, in a roundabout kind of way too, is that, you know, black men back in the time, in order to try to support their families, man, had to jump through a lot of different kind of hoops and stuff, you know, and make a lot of psychological, you know, trade-offs, okay, with manhood, you know, compromising a lot on their manhood and stuff, right, in order to provide for their family. And I think, you know, Pop was a good example of that, okay, you know, and it's just, and that's one of the, only other one I would mention very quickly is my Helly did the same thing, ditto, because Pop worked for him too. And my Helly was one of the, supervisors, okay, and leaders in the community, right? And so Pop had that kind of relationship with a lot of powerful white men in this community back in the day, okay? You know, and just one slight observation, and I think too, it has to do with class, right, in the community, right? Because see, Pop was not, you know, what's the right word? He went up the bourgeois set, you know, okay? He was like sort of earth kind of person, okay? A sharecropper, right? And then you had the educators in the community, black educators, right? Okay, and at that time, business leaders too, because we had thriving black businesses in the community, right? So there was a middle class, a thriving black middle class that existed in the community, right? That powerful white folks, for the most part, interacted with, okay?
Do you think their interactions with that sort of elite class, like the teachers, the ministers, the business leaders, is that going to be a different kind of relationship than the one that they have with somebody like your father, who is, they know primarily because he works for them, right? And they can rely on him as a worker?
I think the relationship between the middle class and whites at that time was hypocritical. You know, they were trading off each other. They were, you know, stroking each other's egos to a large degree. But I think the relationships between, say, you know, Pop and you know, and some of the powerful white folks that he dealt with, I think it was more honest, honestly, you know. It was like, okay, well, and it was a human interaction, you know. It was paternalistic for sure, you know, but I think it was more genuine.
So they make a connection. Well, I remember interviewing Mr. Mott Headley, and he talked about actually being out in the fields with the people that were working on this land, so that is that kind, you know, so that they actually have a chance to interact with each other outside of, okay, I'm a black educator and I'm trying to get money for the school, so I'm gonna tell you what you want me to say, kind of thing.
But they had their hands in everything, that's what I'm saying. They were like school board members, they were like merchants, right? Okay, they ran the banks, you see what I'm saying? You know, and they were elected officials. It was all interwoven.
You're talking about the black leadership.
Yeah, the leadership.
Sorry,
The white leadership. Yeah, the white leadership, right? And so that's why when the blacks in the locally, like George and them, put on the boycott, and their argument was, okay, why are you boycotting the merchants? The merchants ain't got nothing to do with the fact that black folk can't vote, which is bullshit. because they're all one and the same. The same people who were running, okay, City Hall and over here in the courthouse were the same people who on the school board, okay, who ran the businesses.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So that's the boycott that started in '66.
Yeah,
And it was a whole list of demands
Oh,
that, and some of the merchants said, we got nothing to do with this, why are you boycotting us? You know.
Yeah, that's exactly what they said.
human demands.
Yeah.
It wasn't nothing outrageous, Mr. and Mrs. We come and we shop in the businesses, put somebody in here to work that look like me. You know,
When you say Mr. and Mrs., what are you talking about?
Mr. and Mrs. Whoever the last name is, the first name, Mr. and Mrs. You know, when you address me,
It was when we went in the store. It was boy, girl,
yeah,
as opposed to calling you by your name, or
Ain't the-
referring to kids working the white kids working in the store would refer to my grandmother, for example, as girl, as opposed to Mrs. Turnipseed, you know. So it was just, you know, respect.
a basic lack of respect.
Yeah.
So can you both tell me a little bit more about your childhood growing up? You mentioned that you felt like really free, carefree as a kid, and sort of, did you both grow up in the country?
Yeah, I grew up in Hermanville, and my growing up was a little bit different from James because I guess my family was considered a bourgeoisie thing. My grandmother was a school teacher, and my dad was in the Army, so he was a Korean veteran, and because my mom and dad were young, my grandmother decided, well, Dad was being, you know, transferred to different bases, and she decided, well, no, you guys are not going to take care with you. She will stay here because she's got to go to school. Like, it wouldn't be schools other places, but but anyway, I ended up, you know, living with my grandparents. My dad's parents raised me, and my grandmother was a school teacher in Hermanville for many years, and my grandfather was a big farmer, and he had his own. We had about 300 or 400 acres of land, and he had workers on the property, you know, black people, you know. So they had a sort of different relationship. I guess the relationship, like what James was explaining, it was because they were educated and had money, they were treated a little bit different than maybe Pops was, my father-in-law was. I think it was respect, but not mutual respect. Respect for the fact that they did have an education, and that they had. My grandfather, actually, he did not go to college, but he made it on his own, you know. So and he acquired all of this just from hard work. My growing up was a little bit different because everything we needed was on the farm. You know, we ate from there. We ate everything from there. The only time we came into town to buy from the stores was to get furniture, or sometimes we bought staples like meal and things like that. But I had an uncle who was right down the road who actually had his own mill. So we didn't have to do that very often. But, and neighbors were like a mile from you, you know, or 2 miles. So it wasn't like everybody was right there together. So we played right there on our farm. But once we got, so I never had any interaction with any white children. Actually, the only time I saw any was on the school bus, you know, going through by the house. But
Did you think about the fact that they were going to a different school?
at that time, no, because I had no sense of what was going on because I was kind of sheltered. But my grandmother always taught me that I was just as good as anybody else, and that I didn't have to worry about that. So I always, a lot of people, I'm referred to in sort of as a bitch because I have I'm very self-confident, so I don't worry about what other people think about me. And growing up, I had a lot of responsibility as the oldest, and my grandfather always told me that you're the oldest, you're gonna acquire all of this stuff once we're dead and gone, which didn't work out that way, but because of other reasons. But they expected a lot of me, and I tried to live up to that. And I never actually played with any white kids, anybody other than family or some of the people who worked for my grandfather, their children, and when I went to Hermanville School. But once I went to Hermanville from 1st through 6th grade, because we didn't have kindergarten back then, and then we'd have to come to Port Gibson to go to middle school. And that's when things started to happen here in the county. The civil rights movement started, began. It was once that year when we moved, when I was starting riding the bus to Port Gibson to school. And then my dad and mom separated, and I got moved to Port Gibson. So that's how I got involved.
Did either of your parents try to register to vote when you were young before the movement started, or talk about voting?
No, my parents didn't. My mom was just, my mother was not a radical, so to speak. She was kind of laid back, and always tried to make peace, get people get along, and that kind of stuff, But she never discouraged us from not being radicals. It was 3 of us, right? Dawn, me and Lois, but she always, things don't just happen in a vacuum. I guess what I'm trying to say here, right? Okay, because the experiences that happen within our little family, right? Okay, my uncle, and I'm gonna hook it up in a minute. Okay, my uncle, who was a World War I veteran, all right, Uncle David came back, man, and he and my grandmama, and they used to talk about France and the world and that kind of stuff, right? So I'm sitting there, a little kid, I'm listening to this shit, right? And I'm saying, I'm like, what am I, 7, 8, and I'm listening to this, right? And like I said, probably I'm just carefree, ignorant, just running around, just happy, in a segregated society, right? Don't even got no earthly idea of how I fit in this, separate or equal, okay?
Right.
So when Uncle David would talk about, world kind of stuff, right? Shit I never heard of. It was like Star Wars shit, right? And then Pop, he goes, and Pop comes back, right? And he talks about world things, right? Okay, stuff that changed all that. I mean, you gotta understand, here's a man who had never left home, who probably hadn't traveled 100 miles in any direction all of his life. All of a sudden now he's on the European theater. Okay, he had to be a profound experience, and then get back here, right, and be faced with this hypocrisy, get a bus in Alabama trying to get back to Mississippi, coming back from or New York or wherever, right? You might not make it, and you black with a uniform on, just fought Hitler, in this foolishness, right? And you might not be able to get back home in the United States, and I think that part of what the white psychic didn't understand or didn't appreciate, right, is that, if you're going to live in a democracy, okay, and that's what this is, okay, how can you say that I'm not supposed to participate in it? Huh? Yeah. This is hypocrisy at its worst, okay? And that's what the movement was doing. The movement was pointing up America's hypocrisy. Okay, and them brothers and sisters who went out and came back and brought knowledge and stuff, right, empowered us over a long period of time, right? I'm sorry. It empowered us, and by them empowering us, man, okay, it took our psychic to another level, okay?
Did you think about that at the time? did they talk about it that way, or is this you putting it together
No.
as you get older?
Obviously, hindsight fit, right? But what I'm saying is that it was something in the back of the psyche that was there that you remember. And I guess as you get older, right, stuff starts to trigger, you know, your recall.
Thanks, yeah.
Well, I was actually thinking about that when you started talking, that both of you had parents who were fathers that were served in the military,
Yeah.
which took them away from home.
Yeah, we often talk about that
Yeah.
because my dad,
Yeah. And the profound implications of that.
yeah, Daddy
Yeah.
fought on the front lines and was shell shocked. And when he came back, he couldn't get any kind of services that he needed, you know. And we struggled with him with schizophrenia and just all kinds of medical issues until he died. Dad died about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't get as much about what he did there because he kept it inside. And we didn't know what was going on with him. My grandmother didn't know what was happening with him because he couldn't talk about it. But as James was saying, as I got older, I realized that here you took a man from a small community like Claiborne County and take him way across, way over in Asia, and he's shooting at people. He don't even know who they are, why he's shooting them, or any of this, and then bring him back to the United States, and he's treated like he's a second-class citizen or not even human. So he shut down, you know. So, and it was very hard on the family for a long time. Dad was on meds until he died, you know, and we went through some extreme situations just right here in the county. And just to talk about a little bit about how whites did help in some sense, Alan Burrell. Every time when Dad got older, and it was obvious that somebody had to take care of him. Well, being the oldest and had always been taught, well, it's your responsibility. I took on Dad because Mom and Dad was divorced. But my mom never not helped me when I needed it with him. But he was more responsive to me for some reason. And whenever he would go off his meds or just would drink and get into an episode, it was all kind of red tape to try to get him over to the VA. Well, Alan Burrell, I would go to Alan, please help me. I need it. And he'd make a phone call somewhere, I don't know who, but the sheriff would come and we would have to restrain him. It was very heartbreaking, but to keep him from hurting himself or hurting someone else, we did that at least, 3 or 4 times.
And see, that's the humanity I think that Carol's talking about. You know, that's so often missing, man. And I think so often not understood in communities and stuff, right? It ain't that people don't have disagreements about this, that, and the other, man. That happens. That's human nature, right? But what Alan did was a act of humanity. He didn't have to do that. I mean, you know, I'm just saying.
And what was his position in the county at the time that allowed him to do that?
He was just an attorney here.
He's a prominent
attorney for the, and he was the
attorney for the board.
He was attorney for the board.
For the board supervisor.
But I don't know. I can't even remember how I even developed a relationship where I felt I could go to him and ask him to help me. I just did, and he did.
Yeah. Which is the same kind of thing. I think all this kind of hope ties up, right? You know, I'm just saying, like when Pop went to Dan, you know, and with the Mott, okay, and got a little piece of money, got a little help to support his family. I mean, Alan did the same thing.
You said your dad was a Korean War veteran. Do you know if the unit where he served was integrated or not? Did he ever talk about that?
He didn't.
Yeah, because I believe it. I think they integrated some during that war, and so I just wondered if he had mentioned that one way or the other. Were your grandparents? Did they ever register to vote or try before the movement? Do you know?
Probably not Daddy Johnny, but I'm sure my grandmother did. She had her brother, Everett Jennings. He was one of the first people to run for elected office.
Yeah. Yeah.
He ran for school board. Commission.
Election commission. Yeah, election commission.
So that side of my family was active and trying to be.
Yeah. What was your school like in Hermanville?
Oh, it was all, obviously it was all black, and the principal was F.A. White, Sr. And my grandmother was a second grade teacher. It was just 6 teachers because it was 1st through 6th. Everybody there was from the community. All the teachers lived right there in the community, right in the Hermanville area. I think we had one teacher that came from Port Gibson to teach there.
You want to take a break?
I moved. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And the classroom sizes were about 30 of us probably in the classroom. We didn't have hot lunches. We didn't have cafeteria. We had to bring lunch to school with us. They brought us milk. It was a milkman used to come and bring just white milk. We didn't have a choice of milk.
No chocolate.
Well, which was good for us. So, but it was just thinking about that now. It's funny. They brought the milkman brought milk and whatever you had for your lunch, and there were many children who did not have food. And my grandmother, because she had a lot, she fed many kids. Every day she would bring enough food because she knew who was going to need something. And she wasn't the only teacher, but because I lived with her and I knew how she was about the community and about kids, she took care of all of her children, her brother's children. One of her brothers, Sam Jennings, he had 12 kids and their mom died early. So she helped raise them. And she was just, everybody called her Miss Turnipseed. But it was Lula B. Turnipseed was her name, Lula B. Jennings Turnipseed. And she was well known in the community and well loved because of her good nature and her eagerness to help people. She always wanted to help others who were less fortunate. And the school was it was a community. I mean, everybody got along. Everybody took care of each other. And if it was one bad apple, that one bad apple was made an example of, and everybody else fell in line. So we didn't have to have in school suspension and all that kind of things that we do today. Time out, go in the corner, all that kind of thing. All you had to do was get the biggest bully in the school, and they got it. And everyone else got it without the pain. So, yeah. But it was back then we didn't know that we weren't getting everything that the white kids were getting until I do remember wondering why our books were so raggedy all the time. Okay. And every once in a while there would be, you might get 10 new books, and everybody wanted those new ones. And in some classrooms, like it will always be, certain kids got those new books, you know. But even getting a new book, it was probably the oldest edition of whatever it was we got. You know, I'm sure over here in Port Gibson, at Port Gibson School, at the white school, they had something even newer than what we got. But everybody was expected to do the right thing. We were all taught that to love each other and look after each other, and to respect one another. Okay, we were raised up in the classroom just like you would be at home, and if you got in trouble at school, you had got in trouble at home. But that never happened because, like I said, it was just one person got it, and I remember one kid who got it good, and boy, now I don't want that. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
could I echo that? I mean, Carol's so right, man. I mean, okay, I was not the easy kid to get along with in school. I was always in shit. Always, man. You know, and mom used to come over there, bake cakes and pies and shit, bring them to the guy, principal, right? You know, try to keep my ass out of trouble and stuff, right? But, and I remember, I'm gonna tell this story. Miss Rachel, Kendall mom.
Rachel Wilson.
Was Rachel Wilson, Kendall mom, right? Okay, she was a beautiful teacher, man. And I was in her room, a bad little sucker. And I remember Miss Rachel telling the story, right? How she came out. Pop was plowing the fields, okay? And she came out and told Dad on me, right? How foolish I was, all the foolishness I was doing and stuff, right? And then she said, Pop stopped the mule, told her, said, look, how many hours do you have him? She said, I got him, or whatever. She said, well, when you got him, you do what you need to do to make him do what he's supposed to do, right? And when I got him, I'll do what I need to do. Get up, mule, right? And Miss Rachel always tell that story, right? She said, and what Pop was saying was basically, right, look, you the teacher, do your job. I got your back, all right? He ain't supposed to be acting a fool in class. If he be doing that, beat it. Like, you know what you be that. You know what I'm saying. But I think the point is that people were so close, man. Families were so close, right? And this is all black system.
Yeah.
Back in the
Oh, yeah.
you know, one of white folks in there. Okay, you know, taking care of the business.
Yeah.
Taking care of the business, right? Educating the kids, right? Separate, unequal. Okay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, all these dynamics are going on, right? Over here, across the street, you know, they got the best of everything.
Yeah.
You know, all of the modern stuff, right? And we know it's good, but we can't get to it. Okay. And I think the slippage, and I want to make this quick piece, right, is that all the good stuff we had, once we did integrate, right, we dropped it for all that stuff, which we assume was the best.
Yeah.
You know, so we integrated at the expense of our culture and our heritage.
Assimilated.
And assimilated, totally assimilated. In a lot of cases, right? Okay, I don't know if, I mean, you know, and you know, I'm saying, to me, true integration is about, okay, a little bit of your stuff, a little bit of my stuff. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff.
Yeah.
Bad stuff, out.
Yeah.
Both sides.
Yeah.
All right? Getting along, right? And integrate that, and that's what America's about, okay? All culture, yeah, we all got some issues, right? But let's come to the table with the best practices from each culture, okay? And make the community a better place.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's all civil rights movement was saying, okay? You know, now we made some blunders along the way, obviously, right? But those are growing pains, I think, okay? You know, I mean, I know the rich history of Addison High School, okay? A rich history,
Yeah.
a rich history, man. A rich history. I mean, beautiful educators. I mean, the Reeves, Reeves and them, right? The Martins, right? Okay, you know, the Schaefers. I'm just naming some of the families, right? Great educators was in the system, right? Running the system. Mr. Dobbins and them, Ms. Hoses and all of them folks, right? And the people that's come to mind. There are a lot others, right?
Yeah.
So my premise is this, is that we have always been strong on education, black community, right? And always saw that, like Malcolm said, as our passport to the future, all right? You know, and I know them old folk, mom and pop and them, they always told that to us, how important education was. Something happened.
Yeah.
Something happened along the way, you know, and you know, the ball was dropped somewhere by somebody, and it need to be picked up. Okay.
So did you believe them about education? Did you take it to heart what they said?
No, not at first. No. I was, you know, young and foolish and ignorant. You know, and again, all of the stuff, right, that they diagnose now that kids have when they be growing up in school, was not the stuff. There might have been some stuff that was going on with me. So I didn't get all I was supposed to get. I know I didn't. I mean, I missed a lot in education. And a lot of it had to do with probably my attitude and the foolishness I was doing and all that, you know. But, you know, I stumble out. Okay. You know, now my brother and my sister, right? Another story, right? Okay. I guess they learned from my mistakes. Okay. You know, but to God be the glory, right? I'm saying we all it was about helping each other.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say, you know, and that produces a good community, right? I mean, look, we're all here on the planet together. Why can't we just get along?
Yeah.
Wait till that's what Alan was trying to do. That's what he said. I mean, I'm serious, man, and I keep quoting that. I mean, he was a good human being. Was he perfect? No. Ain't none of us perfect. But he was a good human being. He could meet you on common ground. Right? He was a key. When I came back here, man, and was trying to make a contribution as the county administrator, right, to the community, right? Alan was a key point in all of that in helping me. And it's just, you know,
I remember the day.
Oh, okay.
I remember the day they finally, because it was going through all these changes about hiring James. He would have two of the supervisors was in his corner one day, and the next day it was three, but they kept putting the vote off.
Is this the first time or the second time?
The second
time. The second time.
So this is when he's applied for the county administrator position.
Yes.
Was this like 19?
This was
had to be this was 90.
so
Seven in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And I was teaching at A.W. Watson at the elementary school, and I was coming through town, and I stopped at the bank, at Port Gibson Bank. You know, Alan's office was right next to the bank. And I got out of the car and was headed to inside the bank, and Alan was coming. He happened to be coming out of his building. And Carolyn, I said, yes. Hey, Alan, how you doing? He said, we got us a county administrator today. He was just so excited about it. I said, oh, great, you know. But I'm sure he genuinely wanted to work with James and wanted to help make the community be better. And he was happy to have somebody that probably he could hold him an intelligent conversation. I guess, too. I'm sure that had a lot to do with it.
But it was mutual.
Yeah.
I'm saying, you know, we helped each other.
Yeah.
All right. Those people who get elected to public office, right, I think is one of the mistakes that we made too, man, is that just because you're black, okay, and you run for public office and you get elected, it don't mean you're going to act in the best interest of black folks or white folks, all right, old folk, young folk, poor folk. Yeah. You to act in the best interest of your own self, you know, which is classic Machiavellian bullshit. You know, I'm saying. And so, you know, you got to hold these suckers accountable. And I think that's the lesson that's being learned too, all right? And you gotta forge alliances, right? And relationships, okay? Yeah. And they are built on trust. And they're built on mutual respect for each other, right? Okay, and a common goal, all right? I mean, we don't live in a, dictatorship. We live in a democracy, right? And it means that everybody bring a little something to the table. And you stir it up, and you hopefully, man, okay, you get some kind of consistency with it, okay, and it takes form, okay, all right. And if small communities, right, are the laboratories of democracy, that's what they say, right? Okay, if small communities are the laboratories of democracy, right, we here, Port Gibson, Clayton County, I'll say this, we should be a shining example of what the civil rights movement was about. We should be a shining example of communities working toward the common good, and the greatest good being done for the greatest number. And we dropped the ball.
Yeah, I want to come back.
I know, I'm sorry, I know I
that's
digress,
okay.
man, but
No, I mean, that's important.
Hold up a second.
But can you all tell me what, so we're located at Cultural Crossroads, and one of the buildings is at the corner of Main or Market and Fair Street. And can you tell us what Fair Street was like when you were growing
oh
up?
man,
Boy, that was like coming.
I mean, it was like a carnival.
Yeah, it was like it's on the weekends now.
On the
Through the week, it was just normal.
yeah.
But Saturday, whenever my granddad would say, "Okay, I get ready, we going to town." Oh boy, got excited because he wanted to ride down Fair Street because you saw all kinds of people on the streets hanging out, music blasting from the different businesses. We got the juke joints and little grocery stores, little shops, and people just would be out mingling. You could be, back then it seemed like we were there all day. And it was a festival every Saturday, you know. It was fun.
Yeah, it was, and but thriving black businesses all up and down the street. I mean, doing businesses, man. And like the corridor, right? I mean, back in the day, you know, in the 50s and the early 60s and stuff, you know, Fast Domino and Albert King, all of them used to come up through here. Danny's, be down to Danny's, man. On the corner down there, it was a 2-story building. Miss Lara Keegan's, Miss Lara Keegan, remember her? Miss Lara Keegan had a cafe there. My grandmama used to work downstairs as a cook. And upstairs, they had rooms and stuff, right? And Miss Keegan was like, she was like half white, you know, high yellow, okay? They call them yellow bone back in the day, right? And but a beautiful personality, right? And across the street was Danny's Cafe, Danny's Playhouse. They called it Danny's Playhouse.
No, the Playhouse was cross
18.
Yeah, it was on 18.
Yeah.
But this was just Danny's little
It
restaurant.
was Danny's number 2, right?
Yeah.
That's basically what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, and then Miss Bird had a little place there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fish market.
Yeah, I felt the fish market.
could
There.
get
The only
live
white
fish.
Check this out. The only white business on Nigger Street was the fish market, which was owned by Mr. Gladgett.
Yeah.
That was the only white business
On that street.
On Nigger Street.
Do you know how he landed on that street? Did whites come to his place, or was it all black business?
He had this, you know, it's an Cajun kind of personality, you know. Yeah, he had that kind of personality, right? And check
So
this
they
out.
bought fish from him.
Yeah, they came, yeah.
So white people come off
It was
the
an-
to get the fish?
It was
They
like
probably came through the week. See,
Mhm,
because
mhm.
through the weeks,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
quiet.
Yeah.
You could come to town and go
Oh,
to,
yeah.
you
I
would
have-
rarely see anybody.
I have heard that from, you know, some of the whites, that they never would come on Fair Street
Yeah.
on the weekend.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
no!
I
Oh
know, 'cause-
no!
It was full. I mean, you could hardly walk on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which is another issue about perception.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? In racism.
yeah.
Okay. Now, okay, there could not have been a more profound experience by any human being who walked down Fair Street.
How many blocks is Fair Street?
Block.
One block.
One block.
One block.
I just want, not everybody knows what downtown Port Gibson
Oh,
looks
one block.
like.
One block.
One block. One whole block.
One block, 2 sides.
And it would
Okay.
be literally full.
Full. I mean,
Full, both
people hang
sides
out the
of the
rafters,
street.
man.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Children,
yeah, you
old
got-
people.
Yeah, BB King blasting out of the
Yeah.
little juke joints and stuff, right? Okay, Bobby Bland and all them, John Lee Hooker, man. I mean, Muddy Waters, shit. I mean, it was a down home fest.
Yeah.
okay, catfish frying,
Oh yeah.
okay,
Ooh.
chicken frying, okay, and
Chitlins.
Falstaff beer, chilling, Falstaff beer,
Chitlins cooking.
yeah,
Yeah.
Jack's, Bud was coming on, right? But they were drinking like Falstaff, man, Jack's beer, right? I remember that. Okay, Miller High Life,
Country club or
You
something.
thought that was
Country
for you,
Club,
right?
Colt 45. man.
Miller High Life, you thought that was your
Oh, Miller High Life.
Oh, he still thinks
I,
that.
shit. I thought I
He
owned the
still
company.
think- he
I
still
thought I
think
owned the
that.
company, right? That's it. Shit.
He should have stock in it.
Damn,
Much
you
as he
ain't lying, shit. Look at
Yeah.
it was a thriving community,
Yeah.
right?
It was
Thriving
fun.
community.
And we weren't afraid,
Oh.
but we knew
Mm.
not to go outside of that border. We didn't come. What is this street?
Fair Street.
Main Street.
You
You knew to turn around
Main Street,
at the
yeah.
corner of Main and Fair.
So you didn't go up in the white part of town?
No.
I got a Main Street story. Can I share?
No.
Yeah, let's hear your Main Street story.
Okay. I told you I was in the shit, right? Always doing stupid stuff, right? And trying to be the class Richard Pryor. So I'm coming down. I ain't supposed to be up here because I'm hanging out with my grandmother at the cafe. I must have been seven, eight, something like that. Anyway, and so we hanging out there. Out there. She said, "Look, Jane, don't go up here on Fast Street." She said, "Your ass down here." Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'll sneak out the place. I come up here on Fast Street because it was like
it was
Christmas.
on Main
I mean, on Main Street, but it was Christmas. It was Christmas, right? So all the
It was
lights, and cars,
decorated,
decorations,
yeah.
man, it was just lit up, man. And so I wanted to see what the hell was going on up there, right? So I'm up there, and I'm running down on this second block up here. I'm running down the streets, right, and looking all around and stuff. And I run into this little white girl, right? And man, damn. When I hit that little girl, right, I was an accident, and she fell, right? And she had her daddy and her mama and her little sister were with her. And the daddy was a classic 6 foot, some big old dude, man, like 250, 300 pounds, right? You know?
Oh, he looked that way probably.
No,
He
no,
was that big. Okay.
This guy was a classic redneck. I'm telling you.
Oh, that I can believe.
Yeah, he met all the stereotypes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And his wife was played and it looked good. And when I knocked that little kid girl down, man, that little something, he grabbed me. He said, "Nigga," and I said, "Shit, I'm dead." I know he's gonna. I know. And I was crying, right? And he said, "Don't you ever, little nigga, but bump into my daughter again here," and threw me back down on the concrete, right? Well, man, I'm pissing on myself and shit, right? And so I run my little ass back down to where I was supposed to be, to my grandma. And I went in there in the back, man, and laid down. She said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Nothing." And I just sit there, man. I never told nobody that shit. That shit scared the hell out of me. I just knew I was dead. I mean, AKA Emmett Till.
I didn't know we came so close to losing you.
But I never told. I never told nobody the story, man. But that kind of shit sticks in your psyche, and you don't remember, and you don't never forget that. You don't get the kind of experience, right? I could have lost my life because I bumped into a little white girl by
Because you
accident.
wanted to see the Christmas tree.
Because I want to see a Christmas tree.
And why wouldn't you?
In the car, and
Who
see,
doesn't want to see the
no,
Christmas tree?
and see, Allen Motor Company was right over here,
Yeah.
right? All this wasn't here. There was a big car dealership
dealership.
over there, and there was one black cafe that Mr. Kane was right there where that pavilion is, right? Later on, but the point is, on both sides of the street, people would park, right? And it would be like a showcase of cars from all kinds. I mean, and the bourgeois set of the black community, right? Okay, now how they would show out, right? Show their wealth, and they will come park their cars up on Main Street if you get a parking, like over here in front of Sherman Furniture Company, someplace like that. It was a J.C. Penney store. No, not J.C. Penney. What was it? Five and Dime store right on next to that. So they would park the cars there, right? Okay, and let the windows down, and all the family would sit in the car. So when you walk down the street, right, you would see the every once in a while, bourgeois blacks, okay, downtown Port Gibson in their fine cars and shit, right? And you look at, God damn, man, I want to be like that one. That's a bad ride there, man, you know. And you get it was stuff to do, but you shouldn't lose your life.
Yeah, for an accident, running into a little kid.
Because you want to see the lights.
Yeah.
Because you want to be around folks, be around excitement and stuff, right? You shouldn't lose your life. And that's what I was saying. And the irony, the twist of all of this, right, is that, like Trayvon Martin, you shouldn't be, I mean, if you walk down to the store to get some skills and walk back to the house, to your own neighborhood, or your own house, you shouldn't be dead.
Yeah.
As a result of it. You see the parallels. 50 years later, we're still doing this same shit.
Yeah.
I rest my case. It's crazy. It's insanity. You know, and you can multiply that. I mean, my latest one, Chicago, 16 shots. Running away from the person. They ain't running to him. Running away from him. So, but I'm just saying. So we got some issues. We got some stuff to do, man. We got stuff. And so when those rare moments in history put black, and I know it's my pet peeve, I'm going, but in those rare moments in history when when history puts black leadership in positions of authority, and they are so ignorant and so arrogant not to try to cultivate what's in the best interest of the whole community, right? They are doing everybody who sacrificing the civil rights movement a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, and these suckers need to be held accountable by somebody. And I know you say it's the right of democracy, but these are, I'm suggest this, is that these civil rights organizations and stuff, right? These watchdogs, wherever they are, right? Okay, they have to be as vigilant on incompetent, corrupt black leadership, just like they were with the cluckers, okay, and incorrupt whites when they were in position of authority. What's the difference?
Yeah,
We're fighting evil.
I know there's people that say, there was a lot of organizing to put people in office, but not the organizing to hold people accountable.
Yes,
as they were in
that's
office.
my point. That's my point.
The movement outside of Port Gibson, like the Montgomery bus boycott, or did you hear about Emmett Till or Martin Luther King before the movement came here?
Oh, yeah. We did.
Yeah. I remember the Emmett Till stuff. I was a little kid. I mean, I remember my old folks talking about it. Him getting killed, and I mean that was the thing, the Till killing, man. It just, it had like a ripple effect, and even as a little kid, I understood that, I guess I understood it. I understood that everywhere I went, around the black community, people were talking about it.
Yeah. I think that's when I became more conscious of, or more fearful of of being somewhere that I wasn't accepted for who I was. And being fearful for if I was outside of my family, who I knew would take care of me. I would be worried about it. I started to learn about being afraid.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't so carefree no more.
No.
It wasn't so, you weren't so carefree no more.
It became out
It
as
changed.
that. And the killing of Dr. King, I remember the day it happened. We were in school and they made an announcement, and you can hear anything. And I don't know why, but the whole sky just was dark, and I was scared to get on the bus to come besides from Port Gibson. I had to go back to Hermanville. I was scared to get on the bus because I'm thinking, are they going to come kill all black people? If they kill Dr. King, are they going to kill everybody? Are they going to kill us all? So I was scared to leave the house to go to school the next day. It's hard to explain being that young and things happening around you that you have no control over, that you have not caused, and you are being targeted because of your skin color. I don't even know these people. Why they want to hurt me? I've never done anything to these people. Why do they want? And why am I so different? What is it about me that I'm not supposed to be here? You know.
As I reflect back on it, I mean, this is piggyback on it. The Emmett Till killing was the first time that my mama and my grandmother had the conversation that all people had with their males that are black about what you should and should not do, what you should and should not be, you know, and I mean, my Zach, you know, that's my grandmother, Frances Jackson, you know, and she said, she said, James, look, you see what they did to Emmett Till? You see it in Jet magazine, see, because Jet, you know, that it was the big picture was in Jet, so you know, every black person reads Jet, you know what I'm saying? Come on. I mean,
even if it was the old
one.
one.
Them that can't read, look at the pictures.
Yeah.
So that's why Jet was so good, right? Okay, so and so good at communicating in the black community because they knew their market, they knew their target market, right? Yeah. Okay, and those pictures are everything. You know what they were saying? A picture's worth 1,000 words. Yeah. That was just philosophy. And when they did that, when they did that, I think it was philosophy. It was because the Emmett Till picture. I mean, come on, man. That thing, ooh. And the mother, the courage that she had to do what she did, right? Mm-hmm. To say, okay, look, yeah, y'all can take the picture of my son, put it up there, because what them suckers did was wrong. Yeah. And I want the world to know. Yeah. You know, I'm saying the courage that did that. See, I'm saying these are untold stories, man, of folks that was in the movement, okay, that brought us to where we are. And that's why I know I'm getting old and I'm being repetitious, right? But that's why I'm going back to these suckers who are in positions of authority, right, and being accountable, okay? But when people do that, I mean, right in Port Gibson, right? I mean, I'm like, Jesse, you know, always get people out of jail. Yeah.
Jesse Johnson.
Mr. Jesse Johnson. He was one of the older blacks in the community who had a little land and stuff, right? He would get people out of jail like that.
He was bailing people out. He was just like that. Providing money to get.
And this is in the movement?
Yeah.
He was one of the first people to register.
Yeah, he was.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, and I'm saying I'm saying that these are the kind of people who shape communities, right? Who make communities good and what have you, right? Okay. So the question that's always so pondering me, man, where is that leadership now? Mm-hmm. Where is it? And what happened? I mean, did they all go to Mars or what?
What did you think when your mom and grandmother talked to you?
I really didn't take it serious. I mean, I'm a little kid, man. Again, I'm saying, when you are like 12 or 13, 14 years old, man, you know, 8 or 9.
I was gonna say, you must have been about 7.
Oh, not about 7. It was okay, yeah.
Kind of little.
Yeah. You hear it,
mm-hmm.
you know, and you know it's, and you know fundamentally in your mind, you ain't stupid, that you ain't supposed to be hanging out with white folks. Mm-hmm. Okay, you know, and so, but I will say this though, it kind of brought it home because one night I was walking home, so we stayed up when we was in Port Gibson. I was walking home across the bridge here, right, and these were the little CHA kids, right? They were always stirring a mess too in the community. Yeah. There's no untold story. Because see, CHA was a mixture of the little bad kids, of the upper white crust, right? Who couldn't go to public schools and stuff or private schools, so they sent a little bus up here to the military academy, right? Try to get them right.
And so at that time, CHA was a private white boys school?
Yeah. But yes. And them little suckers used to ride around through the community, right? Because at that time they had cars and stuff. I mean, little rich white boys, right? And I'm coming across the bridge one night from football practice, right? And hey, nigga. And he threw eggs on my ass, right? I said, I got shot, shit. I said, you know. And then I grabbed it, and it was fucking eggs, right? I said, Lord, thank you, Jesus. I was about to call the dogs and piss on the fire. I said, the hunt's over, goddamn. The white folks would kill me. Shit. I was so glad it was eggs. I didn't know what to do. But they hit me dead center right there. Boom. I was like, damn. Man, but yeah. Sorry about that.
So what's your first memory of the movement here in Port Gibson?
What's my first movement in Port Gibson? That's a good question. You know what? I'm 60. What am I?
Oh, Lord, man.
67 years old, right? And a lot of this stuff, man, I had forgotten. I mean, I'm saying, but see, when you talk, I mean, when you ask questions, I don't know, you have that magic,
Well,
girl.
and then when you get older,
Yeah, I guess you start.
you start
You start
something like
okay.
Mr. Jones going back.
Yeah, like Mr. Jones, yeah, going back getting stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, man. You can imagine that shit, man. I said, damn, boy, I'm dead. You know.
So do you remember when you first heard about the local movement or ran
Oh.
down on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I guess.
The situation with Dusty,
Yeah,
but it was
but
a little bit before that.
yeah,
When we
the
started-
meetings.
Yeah, going to the
down at the AME church.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
The
meetings.
NAACP meetings.
Yeah.
So did you find out about it from other kids, from your family, from seeing
Family.
people getting together?
I don't know. My grandmother for me, my Mama Celia, my mother's mother, was very active
Well,
in the local NAACP, and she would, y'all want to go to the meetings, and we would walk from, because by this time, Mom and Dad are totally separated, and I'm with my mom's side of the family. So we're out on 547, and we would walk to town.
That's a long walk.
Yeah, we'd walk to town, and somebody usually would bring us back home, but we would walk.
How long a walk is that?
Phew.
oh, what was 7, 8 miles?
Yeah.
At least.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would walk with Mom.
We would walk with Mama Celia to the meetings, and that's where I started.
What do you remember about the meetings?
At the time when it was just an outing in the beginning, and as I got older and started actually doing things within the youth chapter, I was involved in helping register people to vote, going out canvassing, and helping with voter education, because I was considered one of the brighter kids, and even though I was
You were 2 grades ahead.
just about 11.
I was going to say, so if the
Yeah.
movement really starts here in about 1966, so you
Yeah.
would have
I was
been
about
about 13,
yeah
12, 13, 14?
yeah. Well, I was
But you would.
double promoted
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 times, so I was way ahead of my peers, and because of the way I had been raised with my dad's parents, I was always taught to be responsible and take on challenges. So my grandmother saw the same thing, my other grandmother, and come on, KL, let's go to the meetings. So that's how I got involved, and they trained us how to go and canvass and how to register people, and that's how I really got involved.
Would you canvass in town, or would they carry you out in the country, or
We did town, country,
all of it?
yeah.
You said they trained you. Who were you working with?
We worked with.
What? Okay.
Who was those?
Yeah, George. Voter education. We had a grant
Vote-
on the
yeah.
voter education project. Okay. But George and them was
George Walker.
George Walker. He was a
He
point
was-
person. He was the
yeah.
guy that was getting everything together.
He was our leader
Yeah.
for the youth
Yeah,
chapter.
for the youth chapter.
And that's George Henry Walker?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's the youth chapter of the NAACP?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. George was. He was like, man, the premier organizer in the community.
Yeah.
He really was.
Yeah.
And and then when when dudes like Rudy and them, you know about the Rudy story. I mean, Rudy sharpened George's skills, in my
Yeah.
humble opinion. Okay, because he was like a mentor. He would because Rudy was an old organizer from way back. Chicago and stuff, right? We hanging out with Evers and
Yeah.
So but he was a Korean vet too, I believe. Okay, but he had a what I always say, he had a world perspective on stuff. Rudy did, and I think what he did, and I'm sure I don't know this for a fact, but I'm sure that there must have been conversations between George and those other guys that George hung out with, like with Julius Earl and all of them guys, right? Because they were all part of the same group basically. George and Rudy and them, and I'm sure Rudy and them, and with their experiences too. You see what I'm saying? Because all these guys were basically veterans.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to go with this. There's this whole cadre of veterans. Okay, all that it's like a timeline from World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, all the way through.
Yeah.
Okay, there was sort of like, I can't say the word, militarized, became militant. Okay, okay. And I think they brought their energy back to their communities.
So they have training and
Yeah,
have experience of being expected to.
Right.
Like with the deacons.
And the new strategies.
Yeah, that's what God was doing with the deacons, right? They had weapons training. I remember them guys with guns and stuff, right?
So tell us about what you remember of the deacons.
Oh well, I didn't get to hang with them, but because I was too young. But what I remember is that they kept the peace, okay, and they didn't put up with no foolishness, right? They were like sort of like Black Panthers, if you would, okay. I mean, come on, man. Check this out. I'm telling you, the most things change. Can you imagine 25 or 30 black men at that particular point in time in history walking around with guns in Port Gibson, Mississippi? You can't imagine that shit today.
Wearing black and the
what,
black
this no
hats.
carry gun shit they talking about now? Okay.
Yeah.
You want to stop that shit? Go get 25 black men, give them some AK-47s, and let them walk down the street. And I bet you
The laws of change.
Laws of change.
Yeah.
Nope, we don't want to do it no more. We'll do something else.
Well, in fact, that is actually what happened in Port Gibson. Do you remember that? Did you know about that in the movement?
Well,
So when Rudy and George Henry and Julius Warner, when they were organizing the deacons and they were carrying the weapons, Dan McKay came to him and was wanting to de-escalate and said basically the board of the city council was going to do a law that you couldn't carry a gun in public, and they were like, well, we're not the ones that started it.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know
Dan
that.
said he was going to make everybody put the guns away, and so Rudy said, well, we'll give it a try.
Damn.
So that's,
Well,
I mean,
that's
that's the
okay.
story.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Hey.
But so yeah, what was it like as kids to see these black men carrying guns in the community?
I felt protected.
As a
'cause
black
I was
man, I feel
scared.
good. I say,
Yeah.
I mean, these guys were like superheroes.
Yeah.
I ain't never seen no shit like this. I mean, they had the black hats on, they riding. It was like those mafia stuff, those stereotypes, those Godfather kind of stuff, I said, these dudes bad, man. I'm gonna tell you a story about the little reverend that they beat. I mean, they whooped, right? They didn't beat with a baseball bat. See, it was psychological, but it was dehumanizing too, the way they would do, right?
Yeah.
All right, this little preacher, they told him, don't break the boycott. Broke the boycott. Hey, Reverend, what was his name? Damn, I can't think of his name.
Emerson Davis?
All right, wasn't Emerson.
No, the Reverend.
The Reverend that they beat his butt. What was it? I can't think of it. He was a little chump, fat kind of guy, right? Dark skinned, okay. I don't think he was.
That man had no good understanding.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I don't think the elevator went all the way to the top either, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So I ain't lying, okay? So let me tell you. All right, so this brat back here on Nigger Street, Fair Street, all right? He done went in the store about 2 or 3 times, right? So they said, look, we gonna get that sucker tonight, right? I don't know what it was. We gonna get him tonight, right? So it was, I can tell you, everybody did, Julius did too, right? So it was Julius, okay, and the George and him, and Pluty, okay, and then who else was in there?
His name was Whitney?
Whitney, Whitney, yeah. One other one, I can't think of that. And so they grabbed him down there in the alley down there, right? And they had a big old limb, man. It was like a switch, right? They took him back in that alley behind King's Shoe Shop, pulled his clothes down and shit, right? And tore that ass up. He come out there hooping and hollering with his pants down. And now we already told you how crowded Fair Street be.
Yeah.
And this was like on the weekend. It was like a Saturday night or something, right? Man, look, that dude ain't never broke the boycott no more. Never.
Nobody else
And
broke.
nobody else.
So did
Nobody
you
else.
see that? Did you see
I saw that. I saw it with my own
eyes.
eye. My grandmother's cafe was right across the street, okay? And it was a little alley. Well, across my grandma's cafe was King's Shoe Shop. But at that time, it was like a two-story building, and it burned down. And the present one that's there now is the one that was there now. But back then, it was like two-story. You had to walk up. Remember that shit?
Yeah.
Okay. And it was a little alley there. Okay. And that's why they took me in between the alley of King's Shoe Shop and Freshman. It was a little alley there. And they took him up in there and tore his ass up. And he come out there ripping and running up, headed up, up this way to Main Street. I mean, now how you forget, how you don't not remember that? I mean,
Yeah.
that was, man, I must have laughed about that shit for about 10, 15 years. I mean, you know, it was the standard, you know, laughing the movement. You know? You get-
Well, yeah, everybody heard about
yeah,
it
yeah.
in the black community.
In the black community, right?
It
And
wasn't like Reverend White.
I can't, what the hell was that man name?
I'll figure it out during
Oh,
the
okay,
break
oh,
and
okay.
come
Yeah.
back to it. But so, and you say breaking the boycott, so give us the context for the boycott and what was going on. So what was the boycott?
The boycott was put on the white folks
The
who were the merchants, right? Because they were the same people who were the politicians.
And what was the whole thing about breaking the boycott? How did that work? So what was the setup in town?
You
What-
could go in the store. On
Yeah, you couldn't go in the store. They, not buy anything from
No, couldn't
black
buy,
people.
no.
Stay out of the stores.
Yeah.
Don't purchase anything from any white merchants. And the deacons, they had watched people watching. You know, you might not have seen the deacons, but the deacons could see you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they
If
had
you
a,
were
and they
there.
had a paper that they
Yeah.
put out with everybody's name on it.
Yeah.
And they circulated it through the community.
Yeah.
So everybody knew.
If your name was on that list, you could better believe you gonna get a visit
Mm-hmm.
from the
Yeah,
deacons.
some kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you think that was, how big a factor was that in keeping people out of the stores?
I think that it was a true fact. But I think for the most part, people
were
didn't break it.
Yeah, people.
They were,
Yeah.
everybody was tuned into the
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
You know, they knew. I mean, people's eyes were wide open. They saw the atrocities that were happening,
Yeah.
man. Come on, we got King killed. We got Canada Boys, right? We got Megan. Okay, I mean, the Freedom Summer. All this going
that
on.
was going on at the same time.
Yeah. So people ain't ignorant. They see shit. You know,
Yeah.
it just don't add up.
The majority of the people were gonna honor the boycott anyway. That was for the hard heads.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not playing. We're serious about this.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need no Toms.
Yeah. And it's back to what Cal was saying earlier, right, about the bullet. You put that sucker in check,
Yeah.
everybody else fall in line.
Yeah. No.
And basically, you know.
And so I know you're a little bit, you were a little ahead of school of Carolyn, right? And
A little bit.
Years.
A little bit. She was catching up with you fast and furious. She just about beat you out. But
Yeah.
so you remember some of those early meetings that you've told me about.
Oh yeah.
What are the,
Okay. What it means? Okay. One in particular I remember I think is when how Rudy Shields was a master organizer in terms of, I mean, I just love to watch him, man. I mean, obviously now, hindsight, I have more of appreciation for it. Not much so then, right? I didn't know he was a bad dude, right? Okay. But how he developed leadership, okay? Now, there was a big meeting down here, right? And people were down there and so a lot of discussion was going on about what the problems were and what needed to be done and blase, and blase.
is this the meeting at the AME
Yeah,
church?
AME Church, right? Okay. And Kevin Williams was one of the people that was at the meeting, right? Now, Kevin Williams was also a part of the bourgeois class, right? We talked about earlier. And he was a big-time security officer. He may be the chief or something, I think, down at
He was chief
Alcorn.
at Alcorn. And
Yeah.
you know, he ran for sheriff.
Sure, ran for sheriff,
Yeah.
right? Which is another whole story, right? But
Yeah.
yeah. So he was down at the meeting, and a lot of other black men, and mostly they were of the bourgeois class, Okay, they were like, well, working class. Okay, so like people like, let's say, like Louis Montgomery, right? Okay, who was like a work for the city. All right, they were there. Buster Barber, all right, who worked for General Allen Motor Company, right? Okay, them kind of people were there, right? And so as they were, people were talking, everybody would say words, and Rudy would look and say, he would throw stuff out there, right? And say, what do y'all think about this? What do I do about this? And somebody would respond, right? And so Calvin would start to respond, Calvin Williams. And then Rudy threw one question, and I don't remember what the question was, right? But it like kind of did that to Rudy, right? What Calvin's response did. It kind of knocked him back, right? And Rudy paused for a minute. He said, hey, you come on up here. And from that point on, man, that dude was a leader in this community. I saw that with my own eyes, man, materialized. I said, this is, but I'm saying he was elevated to another level within the civil rights movement. Now, whether or not it was genuine, I don't know. Time would tell, okay, whether it proves, history would speak to that, right? Okay, was he was sincere enough. But he was the first one to run for sheriff in the county, okay?
And he ran in
He should have won.
1967 in that first election after the Voting Rights Act and the voter registration drive. So Rudy Shields, who was Rudy Shields? Can you describe him for people that wouldn't have any idea who he is?
Someone that you would not, if you saw him walking down the streets, right, you wouldn't. I mean, he wouldn't catch your attention. He was like he could blend in like a chameleon, and he always came humble, from what I can remember.
But he came from where?
But he came, I think his home was Yazoo City, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's originally from Yazoo City by way of Chicago, because he had some people in Chicago too.
I think he settled in Yazoo after.
Yeah, after all this.
He was from Ohio.
He was?
And then Chicago.
Okay.
And here.
Yeah. But I never understood a lot about his history, about where he came from and all that, right? Just the interaction when he came here, right? But he always seemed to be somebody who was very bright, okay? Seemed to be committed to the community. And I saw examples of that, okay? He wasn't the kind of person, like some I saw who came, who totally was about their own self and died. What can I do for me? How can I capitalize on this personally, right? Okay. He was seemed to be a very genuine. Yeah, he was genuine. I never saw that. I mean, not that we all should die of purple, but I think he died of purple, man, basically, right? Okay. And he had a lot of bad breaks, I guess, in life, in the end. So it didn't end up, So all good men, don't get a just reward. But be that as it may, to answer your question, I think he was a godsend for this community. He really changed the political trajectory of this community, okay, by the organizing skills that he brought and how he empowered other people, okay, who lived here. He got shit done by doing it through other people and empowering, through the local people and empowering the local people, okay, which I always thought was a beautiful model, man, for community development, okay, that's I mean, if everybody is sharing in the wealth of the community, right? Okay, then there seems to be there's less friction, there's less racial tension, okay? So if I'm white or I'm black and I'm living in a community that's prosperous, right? If I don't want to be with a certain somebody, I ain't got to do it. I go to Paris, or go to Europe, or go to Africa, or whatever, right? You got those kind of options, But the ideal thing would be in a utopia, right? We all get along and sing, what's that little song? Kumbala, what is it? Kumbaya or something, right? Yeah. Okay, but I guess as you get older, man, I really don't. I'm concerned about racism, but I really don't have a lot of time to spend on it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The few years I got, man, I'm about trying to build some bridges. And if you don't want to build them, that's cool. Go your way. That's cool. Just leave me alone.
So that meeting, what else I think that meeting was one of the first meetings right after Rudy started organizing in the community. And how did did whites respond when Rudy Shields and then Charles Evers followed behind Rudy, and they were working in Claiborne? How did the white community respond to that?
They consider them agitators and coming in, stirring up trouble between the blacks and the whites, you know.
But you know what was unique about this place, about Mississippi, in relationship to that? I mean, the whites here, the Cluckers, man, they put them in check, and they went another way. That white citizen council stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, they took the Ku Klux Klan model out of the street, okay, in terms of Bull Connors and all that, right? I think they learned something from what had happened. Some whites did, right? Okay, so now, yeah, look, y'all, the position is right that we take it, but we got to clean up our act. We got to go in, and it can't be one-on-one confrontations, right? We have got to figure out how we make the institutions, okay, put these motherfuckers in check. You see what I'm saying? So what they started doing, right? They started they started infiltrating, you know, boards, okay, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, whatever. They took them over at the precinct level, okay, and organized these lawyers, right? Again, back to Allen, right? Okay, good human being. These lawyers in these different communities, right? They started doing all kinds of little stuff, right? Like, how you think Addison High School got built? Addison High School got built because they didn't want no black folk coming over to Port Gibson High School.
Do you remember when it
Now, my little man, Lil Drake, he was one of the architects in that shit. I ain't got no documented evidence, Emily, okay? But it was genuinely a point of conversation among them brothers I was hanging out with and listening to, that's what went down. Okay, old man Drake was very instrumental behind the scene doing some things, manipulating some things, shit like Bosswood Country Club, case in point. You see what I'm saying? And these were the compromises. Okay, so we were just happy to get a new school.
Yeah.
And Addison opened in 59?
50, yeah, I believe it was.
Yeah, 59.
Yeah, so that's a Brown, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, right? And that was one of the strategies that were put in place. But my point is, okay, so the club, white folks, it depends on where you were in the state, okay? But here, I think the response was more institutionalized as opposed to one-on-one racism, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So can you tell me about the Human Relations Committee and the Biracial Committee?
Yeah. Well, see.
Is that the one, Reverend?
Yeah,
Spencer?
I think, you know, again, you'd asked me that question 20 years ago, I would have had a you know, but as you get older, right, you kind of reflect on stuff, right, and you mellow and stuff. Hopefully, it was the bourgeois set. It was a set of black folks that white folk had picked.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. They became more sophisticated in terms of trying to keep separate but equal in place.
Yeah.
Right? So we're gonna pick up some hand-picked niggas, right? Okay, and we put 1 or 2 on there. They're gonna try to do the right thing, right? Okay, you know, they'll follow them in there, right? Make it look good, right? And I think Reverend Spencer was a man that was caught up in change, and he couldn't figure out what side of the fence he wanted to be on. And a lot of blacks of that bourgeois class end up like that. You know, you know, and white folk played along with it, and it was to their advantage. And you know, it's unfortunate, but that's the way it was. I didn't make it like that.
So that meeting at the AME church, I think my understanding from talking to people is that there was sort of a showdown that night, that the Human Relations Committee was trying to encourage the black community to do one thing, and Rudy Shields was there representing the NAACP and Charles Evers and trying to advocate another route. And you must have been like a high school student.
I was here. I remember the incident, but obviously I don't remember all the dynamics and behind the scenes what was going on. But I remember exactly. I remember what you're talking about. I remember it, man. But you know, here again, reflecting on it back now, okay, it was obvious that with three competing interests in the room at that time, okay, and Evers, man, that dude, you know, but you can say what you want about Evers. Charles Evers, I have a great deal of respect for Charles Evers, right? I really honestly do. You know why? Because he always told you what he was.
What would he say he was?
A pimp.
Okay.
He said that. He said it in the book. He wrote it. He said, look, I'm a gangster.
Yep.
Out of Chicago. I don't think like my brother. My brother ain't me. I'm me. I'm dealing with he's, you know. Now, here again, in some quarters, you say that, people look at you like you crazy. Well, I didn't say it. He said it. Read his book. You know? And so, now, as that relates to what was happening here in Claiborne County, right? Okay, and then here again, Mr. That's what I'm saying. You see the sophistication that was at play. The white citizen council in there, right, and all and them big time lawyers. Because at this point, this racism stuff goes all the way up to the state level. Okay, so these people talking to Evers, obviously, I think history will bear me out. Had to be some conversation going on between Evers and them people. Had to be about that situation down there in Port Gibson and how we deal with that. Okay, because it was the premier case in the country, right, for this whole issue of whether or not blacks have the right to use economic sanctions, okay, against those who are oppressing them.
And you're talking here about the Claiborne hardware case?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was filed by the white merchants
Yes.
in '69
Yes.
to try to stop the boycott
Yes.
and put the NAACP
Be-
out of business.
Out of business. And them were the dynamics.
I think that was when you guys were talking about, when you were asking the question about at the church, the meeting at the church. I think the discussion was something about that boycott.
There might have been another one, because the meeting, there was one meeting that was in late '65.
Oh, okay.
And so, and it was, my understanding is the biracial committee, whites founded a biracial committee.
Yeah.
And the black section was the Human Relations Committee, and they were trying to keep Evers and the NAA out of Claiborne County.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And, so, did you ever see Rudy Shields in action? Like,
The only time I saw him actually, well, the action, the most profound thing to me was that time when Emerson Davis had the gun and was going to shoot him, and he walked up to him and took the gun out of his hand. And the one other confrontation around here with the guy that had the furniture store. Those are the two times I really saw him.
can you describe those incidents for people that don't know?
Well, I mean, the whites here had, obviously, geek Mr. Davis up, man, to kill Shield. Okay, they gave him he had a gun. They said it was the white folks that gave him. That's what they said. I don't know. Okay, but I do know this. I know Rudy, he had a gun. I know what a gun looked like. All right, and the sucker didn't go off. So it must have gave him a foggy. I guess they thought Shields would kill him, or he was nervous. I don't know, but the gun didn't go off. And Shields walked up to him right down on the streets, man. And Rudy and them was all standing. Not Rudy. The deacons, a lot of deacon guys were standing around, right? Because it just happened out of nothing, and it was some kind of competition led up to it. And I don't know what that competition, what they happened prior to, because I was down here, and it happened right down here, I believe it was, right, if I'm not mistaken, on that corner there, Mile Mar, okay? Yeah, I believe that's where the competition took place. Anyway, he walked up to him, Rudy did, walked up to O'May Davis, man, and took the gun out of his hand. And then they arrested him and took him off. It wasn't nothing doing to him, all right?
And Davis was white or black?
Davis was white. It was
black.
It was black.
It was a black
Davis
man.
was black man. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was what they like refer to as a Tom in the community. I mean, that's what, I mean, white, but he went that way. All right, and the other guy was the guy that owned the furniture store. Okay, I forget.
James Jones?
Jones, yeah.
Jones
Jones,
Furniture.
yeah. He was around there by Guy's funeral
Yeah.
home, around that way. Okay, yeah. He had a funeral home. He walked up to him, said something to him. I don't know what it was. I remember, another face-to-face, one-on-one kind of conversation Rudy had with him. I remember that taking place, right? Yeah. Those are the only two times I saw him in action.
What was that like for you as a young person to see that happen?
I mean, you know, you gotta understand, Emily. Okay, when you live in a community all your life and you see black men talking to white men like
As
that
an equal.
as an equal,
Yeah.
up in their face, man, that, no. And then, you know, confrontational, you know, I mean, that sticks in your psyche. It's the, you know, gives you a little balls. So maybe I can do that too. You know? But, you know, I mean, but see, you got to take it in historical context, right? You know, in the time. Do you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Okay. And at that time in history, man, I mean, you know, that kind of behavior on black folks was just unheard of. I mean, the consequence was death.
Yeah.
Okay. And you could do it, but you're going to be dead. Yeah, yeah.
You have any memories of Rudy?
No. Just, you know, I remember him up talking in meetings and that. Yeah.
Can you all describe mass meetings, what they were like for people who never had the good fortune to be part of one?
And let me say one thing about Rudy, man, that I think is, I just want to say, I want to make a part of that. I really honestly hope, man, that history records the contribution that Rudy made to the struggle. I'm serious. I mean, unsung hero. Unsung hero. Okay.
The meetings were, the mass meetings were exactly that. Mass meeting. It would be people, when we started going to First Baptist Church, that church was the biggest church in the community at the time, black community. And it would be full. Outside the church, people would be standing outside trying to get in. And so they had to let the windows up and stuff where people could hear, because you know, we didn't have loudspeakers.
And Deacons outside guarding.
And Deacons standing around guarding to make sure everybody was safe.
And them freedom songs coming out of the rap, you could hear them. Man, Mosley Wills, man. I can hear that little sister right now, you know, hooping and hollering. Her and Darlene, you know, Jesse Howard. Man, I mean, they were singing their hearts out. Vera Groves, man. I'm just saying, you know, it was like Sweet Honey in the Rocks. You know, it was profound. It really was. It was a time that, I mean, I am so glad that I lived in revolutionary times.